So I want to talk about easy online doctorates for doing organizational leadership. And I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that I think are going to make you very successful and that I have learned along the way. I've been in this career for a long time. I'm a professor of management. I completely understand a lot of the sort of nuances that are going on, not completely, but you know what I'm saying. So here's a couple of things if you're thinking of an online program and organizational leadership. So what am I talking about? First of all, with organizational leadership. So thinking about programs that are discussing both the macro side of business and how to operate. It's not just businesses, but it could be not-for-profits, it could be government entities, could be any number of different organizations. We use that term broadly because it's really difficult to pinpoint how to understand what an organization is, and we like to explore any number of different things. So whether it is a hot dog salesperson in New York City, or somebody that's selling candy in India on the street, or a large multinational Wall Street firm. We're interested in all those kind of things, and it's very diverse. Now, I know some people have a very conservative view of what organizations are, and in terms of, they only focus on the large multinational firms. I myself am very open to a lot of different things. I think I'm not unusual with being open. Now, in terms of leadership, there's both the macro and micro side, right? So the micro side is thinking about what goes on with all of this with a human being. And the macro side, you're really thinking about how to put it all together collectively across the organization. Now, what about these online programs that exist? So first of all, I want you to think about this, is that the way that you build credibility in education is not necessarily by how much work you do or about the sort of quick and dirty way of getting through, but it's actually about how difficult it was. And programs that have more credibility in general across the board generally are more difficult. So if you want easy, then it is likely going to result in you not having a very easy time getting a job. Now, first of all, with a doctorate, it's all difficult to get a job. It seems so stupid, but your career prospects actually narrow significantly once you get a doctorate. If you're thinking about doing that, there's fewer positions out there. And the reason is that the market doesn't understand what you're about. I don't think that's changing anytime soon. I've been doing this for so long that people just don't understand PhDs in doctorates because there's not that many in the wild. And the university system has very little incentive to change that. But, in general, what you have to think about is, what are these career prospects? How is it going to change my life? So in that perspective, anybody that's doing a doctorate for career prospects, it's kind of a bad decision. It's completely irrational. And the way I want you to make this choice and to think about it, I want you to go with the programs that you're going to look into and actually ask them the number of people that get jobs, right? Just as you would with an undergrad program, and then their salary. And then you just calculate some sort of expectation based on that, right? What is the expectation that's going to actually happen? And you'll find out that a lot of people don't go through. A lot of people actually don't make as much money as you think they will. And so your expectation is that generally it's an irrational decision. Now there's exceptions. right? So for me, I was an engineer, and I went through and did a PhD, and it wasn't financially worth it. And this, you'll find a ton of people that went through this and made that same sort of calculated choice. Now, that was silly, irrational, all that kind of stuff, right? Um, but there are people and circumstances where it does make sense. So if you're coming from another country and you're using it to leverage to go into another country, sometimes that makes sense, right? Financially, it makes sense. Sometimes if you have a position early on that you're not making that much money, and it's going to give you like a $70,000 pay increase. I've seen that. People that are in retail, like it does make sense at that point. So it really is sort of depends on your position and what you are thinking about. Now, in terms of these online programs and what you should think about with that. So first of all, any program around the world can be online. The reason why we don't do that, and it does, eventually there is kind of an online sort of segment. Eventually, I'm going to talk about that. So the reason why most programs actually don't do any of that kind of stuff is that it's just damn hard, and you need the support. You need to be with somebody that you can cry through the experience. I'm telling you, like, this is legit stuff. This is not easy. And so it's going to be very, very difficult for you to complete, and where everybody's well aware of that it's next to impossible. You're competing in a market, and the reason is it's not the university, it's the market. It's the way that the whole market is actually structured, and it's an irrational kind of silly market, the way that it's actually structured, in that there's few opportunities. It's highly competitive, and everything is tied to outcomes that have very little control over. And the only way that you can sort of manage this is to have a community that you're part of. And it's hard enough. So when I go into my office, I'm being like really open and honest, I don't see anybody. And it's really hard, even when I go into my office. But I know it's harder when I work at home, when I do things at a distance. It's much harder to do that. So I want you to be well aware of that. Now, in terms of the onlineness, only the first couple of years you're going to have to be at any program, and then after that you're like whatever, right? Because you have to take those couple of courses. Now, those couple of courses are going to be very difficult for you to take, but it's a heck of a lot more fun. You're actually going to find that most programs, it doesn't matter if it's online or not, you're going to find those couple of years are going to be your funnest. I know that's not a word, but you're going to enjoy it. Then after that, it is the real slog. This is where you're doing research. And I don't know of a single person that enjoys the process. You enjoy the moment, but I don't think anybody understands the process and enjoys it. So I want you to sort of think about that collectively. And so that's why, like, once you're done with those courses and all that kind of stuff, you can go wander away and go wherever. And people do that all over the place, right? Like, there's tons of professors. I mean, it's not like a lot, but there's a lot of professors that I can identify, at least probably a dozen that are commuting from one end of the country in the United States to another for their own position. So it's like super common to see these things. Almost every institution will have a couple of people that are probably commuting at least a couple hours, at least, so it's I mean, the whole distance thing, who cares? But what you're looking for sort of collectively is where you can cry on somebody's shoulder. Somebody is there to help you out, where you're going to be able to keep walking forward, where you are going to sort of, I used to think this, you can get the state of the art, but I think the state of the art is any program is going to have the state of the art. There are some differences from some institutions, but in general, the state of the art is the same across the board. The challenge is working with your cohort, and I think having a cohort effect really makes a difference, where you are sort of collectively talking about similar things, because the fields kind of move on past certain things. So, understanding all of those things together, what you're looking at is a much more, first of all, much more flexible way. I have this list, I created this list. There's like 400 different universities on there, programs. You can go on the Reciprocity Project, you can look that up, that are all kind of in this genre. And you can look at those different institutions and sort of have an idea. I think that's pretty collectively a lot of the programs around the world. You can have an idea of where you want to go and sort of identify what you actually want to do. Now, there's a couple of programs I want you to be aware of as sort of red flags. If there's programs that are heavily marketing to you, in the sense that you don't really know what they are, and they're private institutions, and they kind of follow you around on the internet, I would be just leery of them. I'm not going to name any of them. You'll understand what I'm talking about. But the reason why I'm leery about them is that they're very expensive, and you might not get the bang for your buck from that. So think about, like, as a consumer. So for me, if I'm thinking about me as a consumer, I only buy things from Costco. I only buy things that are really legit quality. I'm an engineer, right? So my car is a Tesla. It's pretty good quality. Everything in our house is sort of looking for quality. And the reason is, I don't want the damn thing to break down. I don't want to go through all of these experiences in the future that this was a poor decision. So I want you to think about that with your own career. How can you build reliability and quality so that you can go forward with that? Hopefully this helps you out. Hopefully this gives you some clues in terms of what the expectation is. So I'm not saying go to the top programs in the world. I think that's kind of silly, and it's somewhat leading you astray, but it matters. I know that there's a whole pecking order that happens. So this idea that the top institutions sort of breed top institution people if you want to go into academia, but I know a lot of people don't want to do that. So I want you to think about, where's a place that is supportive, that you're going to get good science, that some place that you'd want to be at for a few years. And I think that's the important thing, is you want to be at, you're going to get something from this. It's not necessarily easy, but you can do okay in the long run. And I think that's the requirement, because man, it is a tough career. By the way, if you want to go into industry after, find programs that are high quality, but the expectation is that you can go into industry after. Now, not every program is like that. In fact, most are not like that. So look for those kind of programs. Now, going into industry could be going into administration, any number of different things. And those programs, they tend not to be as legitimate, but I'm actually, the more I've been in this career, the more I'm in favor of those kind of programs. And I've said that for a long time. A 3-year program that you get out, you get a sort of flavor of research, and that you can go work in a real job. I think that's actually pretty cool, to be honest. If you want to be doing the whole research thing forever, because it is a grind. You could watch my videos. I'm very upfront about all of this kind of stuff. So if you're okay with that, the sort of feelings that you get as a researcher, then by all means choose the research path, but just be very cautious. I think you could thrive either way. But I would not use, and the reason why I would not use a doctorate as a career advancement, other than outside it, in the university system, yeah, it matters. But outside of the university system, it doesn't matter that much. And the reason is the rest of the world doesn't understand what you went through and what you did. And the programs that people understand, like an MBA, an engineering degree, a nursing degree, those are your best for that kind of stuff, for career advancement. But the rest of it, the stuff where people don't understand, and you're doing things that are somewhat irrelevant to the outside world, they're not going to give you a career advancement. They're more for your pleasure. They're more for you to see the world differently, all those kind of things that are more subtle. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.